Guys, happy Monday. It's Memorial Day. Hopefully you guys are off work today. We're going to be looking at the baseball slate in this video. We have 6 games on the main slate, so let's go ahead and get started. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out all the other links down below in the description if you want to join for the Twitters down there, the Prize Picks code. And let's go ahead and get started. So, looking at the 6 games today, first game up, we have the Orioles against the Boston Red Sox. Red Sox bats have been on fire over the last month and a half. They continue to put up big runs. Good matchup here against Baltimore. They have a pretty poor bullpen. Tyler Wells, young pitcher, hasn't gotten much strikeout stuff. He has given up some home runs, so you expect the Red Sox bats to stay hot. They have a 5.8 total, wind blowing out a little bit. They're a great stack. Next game up, we have the Mets against the Nats here. You can look to some of the Mets bats, especially if Guillerme is batting leadoff at 33. He's only 2K on FanDuel, so he looks a lot better there. But don't mind the Mets either. They're not my favorite stack because we have some other teams to look at, but you can go with them as a mini stack or some one-offs. And I like David Peterson as a pitching option going up against the Nats here. They have a lot of righties in here, but their best hitter, Soto, lefty is an advantage spot for David Peterson. We got a Wrigley Field game with the wind blowing out, so this one is going to be very appealing for DFS. Not going to be looking at any other pitching options in this game. You're going to be looking at the Brewers bats for sure. Price tags on all of these guys are really nice. You got a bunch of hitters in the 2K range, a lot of hitters in the 3K range, and then the expensive guys. Yelich, lefty, so you're probably not going to prioritize him, but otherwise, love the Brewers stack. And then on the Cubs side, I love Christopher Morel. He's been batting great, and he's been batting leadoff since he's been called up from the minors. He's only 33. You can play him at 2 spots. You have cheap first baseman at pretty affordable bottom of the order if you needed to get to anybody, but Morel would be my favorite, followed by probably Schwindel just to get to a cheap first baseman if you needed one. Next team up, you can definitely look to Drew Rasmussen. He has okay strikeout stuff, but he's one of the few Rays pitchers that they let go somewhat deep into games. He's not going to go like 100 pitches or anything like that, but decent matchup here against the Rangers, although finally getting Simeon hitting a bit, so the lineup is looking a little bit better, but they still have a lot of strikeouts in here, and the 5 through 9 isn't great, except for Adolis Garcia. Lau has kind of cooled off as of late. We have Gallen against Spencer Strider. Gallen's been great this season. Except for last year, he got hit around a little bit. I don't love the total for the Braves here at 4.5 on the road. This game, you might look to a couple bats, but there's just some better spots that I'm looking at. And then finally, you got Buehler against Thompson. You're looking at the Dodgers bats for sure. You got a lot of good hitters here. You got a cheap one in Edwin Rios at 37. You needed a first baseman. It's been batting great for them. You can go up to Freeman as well at 55. Mookie Betts having one of the best months of May. He's one of the few hitters that you can count on for the most part. I mean, last game he did have a 0, but in this month, him, Trevor Story, you're getting JD Martinez. All these guys are batting really well. So for me, I'm looking at the Dodgers stack for sure, but the Brewers would be my favorite, followed by the Red Sox, then the Dodgers, and then the Mets would be where I'm looking at today. Looking over at the pitching for DraftKings, first guy I'm going to go ahead and put in is going to be Walker Buehler. He hasn't had as much strikeout stuff this season, but I still trust him more than any of the other options. He still goes pretty deep into games, usually over 90 pitches for the Dodgers. The matchup is just so good. Like nobody on this Pittsburgh Pirates offense scares me at all. And they're at home. They're heavily favored, so decent chance of getting the win for Buehler. And then second pitcher I'm going to go with is going to be David Peterson, who's been batting. He's been pitching pretty well for the Mets this season. He only has a 2.16 ERA. He gets a matchup against the Nats, which the Mets are favored here. So hopefully another guy that we can count on to get the win. He has okay strikeout stuff, 22 strikeouts in 25 innings. Doesn't give up very many home runs, and doesn't give up very many hits either. Only 16 hits given up. So Peterson, Buehler combination is where I'll probably end up with today. Not a ton of great pitching options. You got a Cubs game, which you're definitely going to be crossing out the pitchers there. Weak pitchers at the bottom of the lineup, the bottom of the pricing tag, and then the top end you have Rasmussen as one guy that you can look to pay up for. Moving on to the bats here, our first baseman, I think Freeman looks great today against Thompson. He can also go down to Fetty. He's also been having a pretty good month of May. He only has 4 home runs on the season, but he has a really nice batting average and gives you a lot of RBI opportunities just with how many guys are usually on base when he's in there. Other options would be going to Pete Alonso against the Nats here. And then going cheap, definitely look to Edwin Rios, and Schwindel would be my favorites. Rios Muncy's on the IL now, so he's going to continue to get those at-bats for them, and he deserves it with the way that he's been hitting. He's been much better than Muncy at this point. But skip first baseman for now. Going over to second base, your top hitters would be Trevor Story against Wells. Gives you a lot of power, gives you a lot of home runs, so he's solid if you needed to go with him. Otherwise, you can go down a bit here, and the first guy that I feel great about going with a value would be Christopher Morel. He's only $3,300. I mean, he's looked great. This kid has been exciting for them. He gives you some stolen base upside with 4 steals in 11 games. He continues to put up, double-digit fantasy points for the most part. Gives you some power as well. Wind blowing out against a lefty, a lot to like with Morel here. Over at third base, looking to pay up for Rafael Devers. Trevor Story's been getting all the hype, but Devers has been having an excellent month. This Red Sox lineup is pretty stacked, especially with the guys hitting now. So Devers at $6,000 looks awesome if you wanted to go with him. Lefty-righty matchup, and the price tag is high, but he looks appealing. If you needed to go cheap, you can consider going with Guillermo if he's batting leadoff for the Mets today against Fedde, and he gives you some upside just with getting on base and getting you some hits and getting potentially 5 at-bats. Some in the mid-range, I'd be looking at some of these guys in the Cubs game with Patrick Wisdom at 47. Otherwise, you can go down and consider going with Mike Brasso, who's probably going to be batting in the middle of the order. The Brewers have some injuries with some of their better hitters are on the IL, especially Hunter Renfroe and Willy Adames. So that's led to Brasso getting a lot of playing time. And at 31, he's always going to get those playing time anyway against lefties because he's great against lefties. Career ISO is over 200, and we saw last season for the Rays in the playoffs, he'd always be in the lineup against lefties and doing pretty well. Moving on to the outfield, another Brewers hitter that I really like is Taylor. Tyrone Taylor for them, he's only $3,100, and he's getting a lot of playing time against righties, and at this one, gives you upside for home runs, especially with the wind blowing out. Good matchup here, lefty-righty spot, and last 10 he's really cooking. 351 with 3 bombs for him, only 5 strikeouts and 35 at-bats as well. So I really like Taylor. And then if you wanted to pay up a bit, it would be could definitely go with Mookie Betts, but I like JD Martinez at 57. I mean, he's having a crazy month and a crazy last couple of weeks. He's batting over 500 in his last 10 games with no home runs, but he still gives you some power on the season. At home, he's batting 350 and just gives you so much opportunities for hits and RBIs and runs scored, especially with how favored the Red Sox are today and how many runs they should score against Baltimore, and their bats are on fire at this point. So those are the 6 guys I really like for DraftKings. Red Sox, Brewers, Cubs, Dodgers would be the guys that I'm looking at. So that's it for DK. Let's go ahead and take a look at FanDuel. All right, so over on FanDuel, same type of deal with the teams I'm looking to stack at pitcher. Well, with Walker Buehler, we've got some good values. Some other spots, like the Cubs game is super cheap on both sides, especially Milwaukee. So it's pretty easy to pay up for Buehler today. I think he's the best option, the safest option. Other one would be maybe David Peterson or Drew Rasmussen, but I don't think I need to go that down at pitcher. Catcher, first base, Freeman is my favorite if I'm looking to pay up. Other ones would be Will Smith at 34. Going down to Edwin Rios, who's super cheap as usual. He's only 26. It would be another option for us. At second base, Trevor Story if you're looking to pay up. Otherwise, you're probably going to be looking to maybe Marcus Semien as a cheapie. At only 28, he's starting to hit the ball better, and he gives you stolen base upside. And then 2K flat, Guillorme, 2K, batting leadoff potentially would be a great value. Third base, Devers, my favorite pay up. But I went with the cheap guy in Mike Brasso, just with how good he is against lefties, and with probably batting 5th or 6th right in the heart of the lineup. You can get up to Rios a bit if you wanted to. But I do expect the Brewers to put up a lot of runs against a lefty with the wind blowing out. Shortstop, I went with Xander Bogaerts, another Red Sox bat that's been on fire in this month. Gives you good batting average, gives you home run upside. So he'd be my favorite. If looking to pay up a bit, it would be for Trey Turner. And then usually shortstop is a position where I pay up just with how good the position typically is. So I'm not looking to pay down. Outfield, you got some good ones at the top end with JD Martinez. Mookie Betts would be my favorites. But I do like the cheap guys that we have here with Taylor and Christopher Morel, 2 guys that righties batting against lefties, wind blowing out. Should be a fun one at Wrigley today. So that's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. Best of luck Enjoy your Memorial Day. Hopefully you're off. Hopefully the weather is nice. And I'll see you all next time.